Hello, and welcome to a new series for this channel. If you're here because of my Dark Souls 2 content and you're looking for more of the same, then that will happen in the future. I've put it into abeyance temporarily because with the release of Alien Isolation, I thought it gave me the opportunity to take the channel in a slightly different direction and to try and generate more interest than I'd been able to do so with Dark Souls content. So this isn't going to be a guide. This is going to be a mixture of Let's Play content and me discussing topics that are relevant to the game, are relevant to the horror genre, and yeah, things that I find interesting. And I think that makes for slightly better videos than just regurgitating facts and strategies for a particular game like I had been doing with Dark Souls 2 content. So in this particular episode, we are going to discuss the game's first storytelling elements and how the game's dramatic situation, or the first dramatic situation, is presented to the player for the first time, and how we are introduced to the main protagonist, and also how we're introduced to other characters without even getting the opportunity to meet them. We will discuss Ellen Ripley's introduction shortly. The monologue that she gives provides the protagonist's journey with its first definition and provides the story with its first shape. We will later episodes we will discuss Ridley Scott's Alien, and we'll contrast its themes and storytelling elements and its the journey of its protagonists, and compare all of them to what happens in this game. And we'll talk about H.R. Giger, the creator and designer of the alien creature, and his connections with the occult. We'll talk about occult symbolism and how it applies to horror, the horror genre. We will talk about Jungian psychology. We will talk about anthropology, social anthropology, and lots and lots of subjects. And we'll talk about the game as well, and its successes and its failures as a means of creating fear in the player. We will also look into semiotics, which is the non-verbal communication of information through signs and symbols, because that's present in this game. And if you've ever been in an airport, you're familiar with things like that. We'll talk about symbols, we'll talk about symbolism, we'll talk about Joseph Campbell's monomyth and the hero's journey, and lots of things. Just now we're going to have a look at the game's introduction, and bear in mind that the ambiguity in the introduction, because that lack of clarification and certainty creates a shape for the ordinary world that we find the game's protagonist in. And the game's protagonist is Amanda Ripley, Ellen Ripley's daughter. So I'll leave you with the introduction. It's great opening credits, well created and crafted, and once they're over, I'll start talking over the characters.
Final report of the commercial starship Nostromo. Third officer reporting. The other members of the crew: Kane, Lambert, Parker, Brett, Ash, and Captain Dallas are dead. Cargo and ship destroyed. I should reach the frontier in about 6 weeks. With a little luck, the network will pick me up. This is Ripley, last survivor of the Nostromo, signing off.
So that was Ellen Ripley's introductory monologue, and it allows us to examine the game's very first storytelling elements. Here we're being introduced to the game's main protagonist, who is Amanda Ripley. That is Ellen Ripley's daughter. The ambiguity that's present in the introductory monologue, because we don't know the Ellen Ripley's fate, and presumably neither does her daughter. And this allows you, the viewer or the player, to create a sympathetic connection with Amanda Ripley. And it also creates the first dramatic situation of the game, which is the main protagonist looking for a lost loved one. So that's the opening dramatic situation, and that gives the story its first shape. We also, the introductory monologue also serves to give a definition to Amanda Ripley, the ordinary world of Amanda Ripley. And the ordinary world is like a snapshot view that's given to the viewer or the player of the protagonist's character, her values, her life situation before she's eternally transformed by the journey that she's about to embark upon. And we can see that Amanda Ripley has made herself useful by becoming a mechanic, and that gives her access to spacecraft and enables her to work in environments and situations that will get her closer to her mum's last known whereabouts, which is what you would do if you were looking for a long lost parent. It's also a means for her to live her mum's life vicariously, and to connect to her long lost mum by following a similar lifestyle and career. So that's the very first storytelling elements. Now we fast forward, and she's obviously taken up the corporate bigwig's offer and travelled on the Torrens. So the very first image we see from her perspective looks like an alien's head looming over her. You can see that, the reflection in the canopy of the stasis pod or chamber looks like an alien's head, and that's probably not accidental. That was probably done on purpose. Sometimes the opening image, and that was the opening image from her perspective, mirrors the game's closing or the film's closing image, and maybe it foreshadows her fate at the very end of the game. Possibly not. Okay, so we're going to move on now. We see that the first obvious thing is we're awake in this room that houses all these stasis chambers, and we can see that we're isolated, we're alone, there's nobody else here. All the rest have woken up and left us here. That's unlike the film. In the original Alien film, John Hurt's character wakes up in a room with the rest of them. They're birthed into the room by the computer, and they all wake up together. So perhaps again this foreshadows Amanda Ripley's journey through the game, that she's going to be isolated for the most part. Now here we're looking at Verlaine's area. We can see that she's a family person, and she's got her pictures and whatnot. We'll talk more about Verlaine in a minute. What we're going to do now is we're going to go around and we're going to see how we're introduced to all the different characters before we even get the opportunity to meet them. The first thing we see about Taylor is that there's a sumo, and my first guess about the sex of this person was that it was a male, a messy male. But also, well, it was ambiguous. I thought there was a chance it could be a female as well. And if you've ever been in female toilets, or you've been lucky enough to be in a woman's bedroom, you can know that sometimes they can be messy. Not always, especially the younger ones. That didn't sound right. Yeah, I think you know what I mean. Hopefully. The thing to say about Taylor here is that if you look at the magazine, it talks about, is there room for the small guy? And we can see that she's got a book that discusses war in totality. That's the title of the book. So this is perhaps all suggestive of a character that feels that she needs, or he or she needs to demonstrate their worth, display their mettle, and perhaps it suggests that they're going to go on a journey of development through the game. Here we've got, I think this is Connor, and we can see somebody that's set in their ways, that's comfortable with their lifestyle. He's got a magazine about fast spacecraft and loose women, I think, and And here, this is one of the most interesting areas. This is sterile, it's blank, it's ambiguous whether somebody's actually used the stasis pod, although the canopy is open, which suggests that maybe there was somebody in there. Is this perhaps suggestive of synthetic life that's on board this ship? Here we've got Samuels, and we've got the calculator and the pen. To me, this is suggestive of somebody that's calculating, is organised, is analytical. He's the only one whose chamber, see the green and red, we've currently got a green flashing light on the kind of drawer or compartment below the computer screen, and his is the only one that's closed and locked away like it should be. So yeah, we get the first items here in the game, some scrap and compound B, but we'll talk about these items in later episodes. There's a crafting system in this game. So yeah, we see he's got his slippers there, one backwards, one forwards, perhaps indicative of somebody that's well put together on the surface, but has underlying tension and dilemma going on. We're going to have a look at semiotics. You can see the first sign here, inverted triangle with a wee human-shaped eye figure. And semiotics is the study of signs, non-verbal communication through signs and symbols. On the left, we've probably got the door closing sign. The middle is perhaps something to do with locating a person, and on the right is perhaps the layout of the path or the corridor in front of us. But if you've ever been in an airport, you know that semiotics is important because people speak different languages, and it's important that the airport's able to convey useful information to them. So it seemed like when we first entered the room that we were alone and we were in privacy, but it turns out there's actually cameras following our every move, and it suggests maybe that we're, although we're going to feel alone throughout the game, that perhaps we're being watched by a higher power or some other, perhaps, I don't know, it's representative of our mum looking over her or something like that, or not. Take everything I say with a big pinch of salt, because obviously, all this is subjective, and some of it's not actually, some of it has been designed on purpose. So we've seen how personal effects can give us information about characters before we even get the opportunity to meet them. Now what we're going to do is we're going to look at the layout of the stasis chambers and who's opposite who. Here we're looking at Taylor, and we know that the area is messy, and that the character is trying to prove to it's him or herself that they've got what it takes, they've got courage, they're trying to develop their courageous side. Opposite that Taylor character, we've got Samuels, who's the analytical and calculating one, and his area is very clean and tidy and organised. Here we've got Ripley, which is ourselves, and we know we're on a journey of discovery, and we want to transform ourselves in the process of seeking answers to a lifelong mystery. And opposite us we've got Connor, and he's set in his ways. He's not seeking to change himself. He's happy with his life. Now we've got the most interesting one. We've got Verlaine, and Verlaine epitomises what it means to possess a soul. She's got a family. She carries pictures of her family around to remind her of her love for them. She also has pictures of holidays, which bring her probably joy and happiness and hope as well. Hope for the future. And opposite her we've got the station that perhaps is indicative of synthetic life, and maybe this is a comment on the fact that without a soul, synthetic life, androids and the like, are unable to feel emotion and to feel to share in the human experience. So this is the game's map, and the map obviously provides us with information about our objectives, and it's currently telling us that we need to get dressed and then speak to two of the crew members that we should now have some familiarity with. I hope this has been enjoyable and illuminating, and if you are interested in seeing more of this kind of thing, let me know. Any feedback would be appreciated as well. I'll try to get as many episodes out as soon as possible. Thanks for watching.